I don't know what folks at home think, but this ministry is supported by your tithes and offerings. And it seems like every now and then I get the impression that people are not either doing their part or thinking that somebody else will do it for them. So I want to just make this abundantly clear. When you are participating in this ministry, you are participating according to the principles of Galatians 6:6. That is for teaching you have received. Now, there's a lot of people out there that do all kinds of crazy things under the guise of biblical teaching. I've tried over the years to tell you, every person has to come to this place. I can't tell you to do this. Even Paul talks about this. Not under coercion, not under anything except you desire to do this. It's like God, in the course of many things that he works on inside, changes your nature. So there are a lot of people listening to me that do not participate. They love the teaching. They do not give. And I'm going to say this again and again and again. You may be tired of me saying this. If you are not yet giving and you've been listening for any amount of time, you have arrested development. There's something wrong with you. Just going to say it like that. This is not my desire for you to give, all right? I barely talk about giving. There's plenty of it that plays on the network. But when people tell me, well, I just can't give to a church or I can't do this, I'm sorry, you're making a very gross mistake. So I could go through all of the scriptures that, and Jesus does refer to a lot, and there's an abundant reference of stewardship. That is the key message right there. It's not I'm giving. It is what you are given while you are here on this earth. You're a steward. You're a custodian of that. Once you shift gears to understand it's a stewardship, no one has anything that they actually own. And no, this is not something, a globalist agenda. This is straight from the Bible. God gives you the ability to make wealth. He gives you the ability to prosper. And we're even cautioned against people saying, oh, I did this, my own hand. If you're a believer, then there are certain things that you kind of follow. One of them is essentially you come to him, you're not your own, you're bought with a price. And I think a lot of people want to separate his ownership of you versus your ownership of what you think you own. It doesn't work like that. In fact, the same hand that blesses is also the same hand that can take away, and people don't understand this principle. I've tried 20 plus years of trying to explain this. People come into the church, and a lot of times, because I started there too, I didn't know how to give, what to give. It was actually an embarrassment because I'd never been taught how to give. I came out of a place where basically reaching into your pocket and pulling out change, I called it the Lent offering, was sufficient, right? It's pocket change for God. That's not scriptural. Nor, by the way, or people, and the church has been plagued with this, of people who prey on people's greed to tell you, if you give, you shall receive. Yes, there's a God truth in there, but it's not about prosperity as people have preached. And then the question is, how much is enough for somebody? Well, this is why Christ said, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these other things, not what you want, what you need. If you read that in proper context, will be added to you. It's the mistake that a lot of people make, and especially those who are weak in understanding that you and I are only here for a time. This is a stewardship. Mining this book is a stewardship, and what we do with everything else in between is a stewardship, which is not limited to and just simply money. But I'm talking about this now to say that we have had some of what I'm going to call the most dismal, not weeks, months of finances in this church. And I've told you this before, and I'm going to say it again. I have tried as much as humanly possible to cut wherever I can cut, but there comes a point where you can't cut anymore. It's just like telling people your responsibility to bring people into the church. It's not mine. I keep telling you, there's only so much I can do. One person can only do so much, and then it does take a village, right? The expression is it takes the body. So that's why I say we're all called to protect and preserve and stand for what the church represents. So I've never stood here and told you about if you give, expect to receive. I've told you the minute you start giving, most people encounter this, and it's kind of a spiritual rule. People who have never given before or not given on a regular basis and start to give, watch out. You're going to be in for a real bumpy ride. And I've told you, I can't repeat this enough. The messages that come in of people that just start giving, and then what happens? I lost my job, my house flooded. There's a million things. It's almost like, how committed will you really be? And if you don't think that's the truth, if I told you just how many people within the sound of my voice, and it's the same story over and over again, which I believe if people were actually looking with spiritual eyes, they'd say, okay, Pastor, so you mean to tell me that my faith in all of these things will be tested? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Because what God is looking for is not, my Bible tells me, the whole world won't be saved. All souls belong to Him. Yes. But some are created to honor and others to dishonor. Some are created to receive. Some are created to just be baffled and confounded and go away because it's foolishness to them. So when you start to understand, just by fact that you're even interested in listening, says maybe God's trying to tell you something. And sitting back and saying somebody else will make a commitment, somebody else will man the phone, somebody else will do it, doesn't work with God. If He tapped you on the shoulder, that means He's opened your eyes and given you some desire to learn. It means there's room for you to grow in your understanding of what your responsibilities are. And that is like the beginning of understanding. So, for all those people out there that have written a message, posted on social media, or let me know how much they love this ministry does not survive and simply thrive on the good green grass outside of our doors here. And it's not offensive to say that. We as a church and as creatures, we have needs. Now, God can provide. The Bible says that my God can provide, but that also requires the willingness to listen and read and look at what's there. So I'm not urging people to give if they've not been taught. I'm not asking people to give for any other reason, the fact that they've been taught, and Galatians 6:6 is the starting point, just the starting point. When we start to really kind of mine underneath what stewardship is, you're going to see it transcends everything. So unfortunately, the people who are yet to learn this only will focus on the giving of money, but it actually expands to much more than that when you really recognize that. That's why we are told, Romans 12, present yourself a living sacrifice. It doesn't say present yourself and put everything else over there. It says yourself encompasses everything that you are, period. So for those people who are wondering how this works, I just told you. Now, there are plenty of ministries out there, which makes me sick to my stomach. And trust me, I do subject myself to see what other people are saying or doing out there. I have for almost 3 decades. Unfortunately, most of it is give to get. Most of it is tapping into people's greed and robs them, hear me out, of their eternal reward if they're actually doing it for the right reasons. But usually that's not taught. It's just, this is what you ought to do, and if you do it, there's a reward at the end. No, it doesn't work like that. Obedience starts by following what's there, and God, who looks on the heart, and only God can see the heart, then can act accordingly, according to the way you've reacted to His word. It's like that. So when people say, well, how do you solve a finance problem? You have to get to a spiritual root. And that has actually been an ongoing battle here for longer than I care to share, way beyond my time and tenure as pastor. So I'm not saying anything new, but I am actually speaking to the folks who are newer to help them understand that this is the way this ministry works. We don't do stupid mailings where people are receiving stuff and I stuff your mailbox with all kinds of do this, give for that. It's basically, this is a no strings attached giving. It always has been and it always will. And, I guess people may be looking for something else and you've come to the wrong place and I cannot help you. But if you are trying to grow spiritually, this is one part of spiritual growth and intrinsic to your Christian faith. Make no mistake about that. So just a little footnote for those people who are listening. When the music plays, we will try and get some graphics up there to show you where you can send your tithes and offerings. And for all those people out there that listen, that do not give, I'm just going to tell you something, and please receive it the way it's meant. I'm speaking the truth in love. This is the history of this ministry. There's a pattern here. I saw this pattern, I've mentioned this before, in the years before Dr. Scott passed away, where he was pleading with people to make commitments and to be committed, and people wouldn't do it. For whatever their reason, they wouldn't do it. And one of the greatest heartbreaks to me was his homegoing. To be in that building and have it be, I'm going to say about maybe 80% filled, including the balcony, was monumental, but for the wrong reasons. You might say, well, weren't you happy that people came out to pay their respects? Well, those same people could have been coming out excuse me, regularly to encourage him. So it's a pattern, and people do this. They sit back, they don't think it's important, they think somebody else will do it. It's a disease we all share, until that person, such as Dr. Scott, was gone, and then I got these messages, oh, I should have come to listen, I should have done this, I should have done that. And I'm just telling you, God gives each and every one of us multiple opportunities to participate, to be present, to learn, and it's on us if we don't. So when I say to you, I've given fair warning so many times, and I've said this so many times, the future of this ministry does indeed rest in your hands. I can't go out and try and convince the world. I'm standing here preaching. This message will be rebroadcast and republished in as many places as possible. But I'm only one person, and with many people in front of me, it should be very simple. But it's complicated. Our human nature and flesh gets in the way. So what am I telling you? There's human responsibility required within the church, and people who are not mature enough spiritually to accept that fact will make every excuse under the sun to not do what they are called and came to the kingdom for. So for that, I cannot be responsible, but I do want those people out there to know that your non-activity has a bearing on this work that will be not just noted in time, but in eternity. And please, if you don't have to take my word, I'm convinced of what I read in here, that everything that we do in time will be reflected in eternity. So make no mistake about that. I don't have it in me. I wish I did, to manipulate people and to tell them, well, and just paint some picture for them. But this is actually the grim reality that people don't want to hear. So if you want the truth, I'm going to speak it. I just said it. And that is for each person to digest. And you can say, well, I'm excluded. And you can say that you have some reason to be excluded, but there are no exclusions. So just please take note of that. All right. On that note, because I'm sure now everybody's heard what I have to say for the millionth time on this subject, we are going to take a quick music break. If you need to call the Voices of Faith to ask questions about where you send your offering, I'm just going to tell you, we're going to put an address up on the screen. That's where it goes. And please do not make your checks out to Faith Center or Westcott Christian Center or Faith Center Ministries. You are paying the teacher. This is according to Galatians 6. You are to koinonia with the one, jointly participate with the one who is teaching you. So everything coming out of this ministry, whether that is my voice or the voice of my late husband, I'm making that happen. I make that possible by God's, we'll call it enablement. So there isn't any, well, I listen to one but not the other. If you're eating at this table, you're paying for the food you have received. Is that clear? Yes, ma'am. Wow. It seems like I've just been saying the same thing for all these years, and yet we still have people doing the same thing, which is why I'm telling you, This ministry cannot keep going on, we'll call it 40% of what should be, what normally would come in over the last year. We're at about 40% of our budget. And that's not new news. I've been telling you this for a long time. Now, I can only do so much to help the church before it becomes I can't. So please, for all those people out there, because this is such an easy church, we don't make you sign any pledge cards, there's no commitment cards you have to write, it's between you and God. I preach authentic Christianity. The real relationship doesn't require a card you sign that you pledge. It's something that you, with your mouth or your mind, commit to God to do, period. No audience, no fanfare, no, oh, look, 100 million people signed up, just between you and God. So hopefully that message will resonate with the people who know you know who you are. And it makes it incredibly difficult when we're having to navigate a budget that's already been cut and slashed and there's no more room to cut. But people still act like somebody else will give and somebody else will do the job. Nope. Each person has to step up to the plate and do their part. And by the way, failure to do that, don't think that this is not about me. Do not make this about me. This is about your relationship with God, and what you do before Him, that's your business. You will either be rewarded or not according to that behavior, which I think I've said enough.
Come into this house, magnify the Lord, lift up holy hands, our hearts in one accord, worship and bow down before Him.